My sister Aydana has always had this unnerving obsession with taking what belonged to me. It wasn't playful competition, it was a relentless need to strip me of anything that gave me joy. As children, she'd snatch my toys the second I unwrapped them. She wouldn't give them back until I cried or until I traded her something else of mine. She'd raid my closet, pulling out clothes I hadn't even worn yet. They'd come back stained, stretched, or torn, and she'd mock me for being too sensitive when I got upset. Our parents dismissed it with a shrug. That's just how sisters are, my mom would say, but deep down I knew it wasn't normal. It felt calculated, like she needed to prove that what was mine should be hers first. That pattern followed us into adulthood, growing sharper with every passing year. The breaking point came during the most important time of my life. My wedding day was supposed to be my fresh start, and instead, it turned into a battlefield. I had saved and sacrificed for months for the dress of my dreams. Satin, fitted bodice, intricate beadwork, and a train that shimmered like it belonged in a fairy tale. I kept it safe at my mom's house, thinking no one would touch it there. That assumption was my biggest mistake. One Saturday, I went to check on it. The closet where it hung was empty, and my heart nearly stopped. I asked my mom where it was, panic clawing at my throat. She looked nervous and finally admitted that Aydana had borrowed it. Borrowed. Like it was just a pair of shoes or a jacket. Not the gown I'd been dreaming of since I was a little girl. I called Aydana immediately, my voice shaking with rage. She laughed into the phone, saying, "Relax, it's just for a few days. It's perfect for my engagement shoot." My engagement shoot? I wanted to scream that this wasn't her moment. Instead, I demanded she return it immediately. "Don't be dramatic," she said breezily. "It's just fabric." Minutes later, my phone buzzed with her sneak peek photos. There was my wedding dress, being dragged across wet sand at the beach. The hem was filthy, the beading snagged, the train twisted and ruined. I felt sick staring at the destruction of the one thing I had worked so hard for. I confronted her again, nearly in tears. She only laughed, saying, "If you cared that much, you wouldn't let a piece of fabric ruin your day." The audacity stunned me. She wasn't even sorry, she actually bragged that she might wear it again to a charity ball because the photos had gone viral. That was the moment I realized I couldn't play nice anymore. If she thought it was just a dress, then fine, she would never get to wear it again. I took the gown to my seamstress, devastated but determined. Through tears, I explained everything that had happened. My seamstress, bless her, worked with me like a co-conspirator. Together we made adjustments that ensured the dress would fit me like a glove, and fit Aydana like a punishment. We tightened the waist until it curved flawlessly around me. We reshaped the bust and hem, adding details that couldn't be removed without ruining the gown completely. The dress became mine in a way it had never been before. Every stitch felt like reclaiming my power. Then I set the trap. I called Aydana and offered her a smile she couldn't see through the phone. "Of course you can borrow it for the charity ball," I said sweetly. She showed up to my house smug, confidence oozing off her like perfume. She unzipped the bag and froze. Her smile evaporated. "Did you change it?" she asked, eyes narrowing. I tilted my head and said calmly, "I had it fitted for my wedding day." My voice didn't even shake. She tried to squeeze into it, tugging and yanking at the fabric. It clung to her awkwardly, making her look like she was stuffed into a costume that wasn't hers. Her face turned red with frustration. "You sabotaged this on purpose," she snapped. I shrugged, not giving her the satisfaction of anger. "I made it fit me," I said simply, "because it's my dress." Her fury built as she demanded I buy her a replacement gown. I threw her own cruel words back at her. "If you cared that much," I told her coldly, "you wouldn't let a piece of fabric ruin your night." The silence after was delicious. On my wedding day, the dress was pristine, every alteration hugging me perfectly. I felt powerful, beautiful, untouchable. Aydana sulked in the corner the entire night, seething. She couldn't stand that she hadn't stolen my moment. For a brief second, I thought maybe this nightmare was finally over. Maybe she'd gotten the message and would stop. But with Aydana, it was never that simple. What came next made the dress drama look like child's play. 1 week later, I went to pick up my wedding photos. The photographer looked confused as I walked in. "Didn't your sister already come by yesterday?" he asked casually. My stomach dropped to the floor. She said you sent her, he added. My head spun as I realized what had happened. I rushed to check my copy of the photos. Entire sections were missing. There were no shots of me with my bridesmaids, no private couple moments, no cake cutting. All gone. The photographer looked pale when I confronted him. She told me you didn't want those photos because they were unflattering, he admitted. I called Aydana immediately, my voice breaking with anger. She answered cheerfully, like nothing was wrong. Oh my God, she gushed. The photos look amazing on my new wedding planning Instagram. My breath caught in my throat. She was using pictures of me and my husband on a fake account, pretending it was her wedding. Behind her voice, I heard her boyfriend Ryan ask, "Did you get the other thing too?" She laughed and said she'd even had photos edited to swap our faces. That was the moment my devastation turned into fear. My sister wasn't just obsessed anymore, she was trying to erase me. When I hung up the phone, my hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. The idea that Aydana was using my wedding photos for her fake wedding page made me nauseous. I opened Instagram and searched for the account she bragged about. There it was, filled with pictures of me in my gown, Marcus by my side, and captions written as if she were the bride. The bio read, "Future Mrs. Aydana and Ryan, manifesting our dream day." My heart pounded as I scrolled, realizing she had stolen everything sacred from me. Behind one photo, Ryan's voice echoed in my memory, "Did you get the other thing too?" I shuddered, wondering just how deep this twisted obsession had gone. I called my mom, desperate for backup. Instead of outrage, she sighed and said, "Sisters share things, you're overreacting again." Her defense of Aydana cut deeper than any dress ever could. It felt like betrayal layered on betrayal. I drove straight to my parents' house, ignoring Marcus's worried texts. My chest tightened as I pushed open the door to Aydana's room. Every wall was plastered with printouts of my wedding. Pinterest boards I'd made in private, my vendor lists, even sketches from my seamstress were pinned like trophies. She'd calculated budgets and schedules in my handwriting. My wedding had been stripped down into a blueprint for her fantasy. As I stood frozen, she walked in, shopping bags dangling from her arms. With a smug smile, she pulled out a veil and shoes identical to mine. I felt like I was staring at an imposter version of myself. My life had become her costume. I bolted outside and called my venue in tears. The coordinator confirmed someone had just called pretending to be me, trying to change the date. Thankfully, the venue refused without ID, but now they required proof for any future changes. My stomach churned at how close she'd come to ruining everything. Vendors began calling me, confused by duplicate orders. Someone had been contacting them under my name, confirming bizarre requests. Marcus stormed into the house that night, his face red with fury. He cornered Ryan in the driveway and demanded answers. Ryan looked blindsided, swearing he thought we'd been collaborating. Aydana had told him I'd offered to share my wedding plans for a discount. That lie nearly broke me. My carefully built trust with vendors was crumbling because of her games. Thankfully, my best friend Claire stepped in. She sat with me for hours, locking down every vendor account with new passwords and emergency contacts. She told me she'd seen Aydana at my florist earlier that week. Aydana had been posing with my sample bouquet like it was hers. The florist assumed we were working together, which made my blood boil. My own vision was being stolen and repackaged under her name. The nightmare spread to my family. My aunt called, congratulating me on planning a double wedding with Aydana. My cousin texted asking if the new date was official. I felt like screaming, she was rewriting my wedding in real time. I rushed to check my wedding website. My jaw dropped when I saw a new section had been added, Emma and Marcus and Aydana and Ryan's special day. 20 unfamiliar names were listed under guests. She'd hijacked my site and inserted herself like it was a joint event. Marcus discovered our wedding hashtag had been used online. Aydana had been posting as if she were the bride, claiming my flowers, my dress, my venue. I printed everything and marched to my parents. My mom smiled weakly and said, "She just wants to be like you." It's flattering. My dad sat silently, eyes cast down. His silence screamed volumes. He knew this wasn't normal, but he refused to speak. 3 days later, Claire and I started a new private wedding site. We documented everything with screenshots and timestamps. My world, once full of excitement, had turned into a war zone. Every vendor interaction felt like a security checkpoint. Just when I thought I'd reached my breaking point, the photographer called casually. He mentioned Aydana had requested additional edits. My chest clenched. I opened her Instagram again and there it was, photos of my wedding with our faces swapped. My bouquet, my dress, my husband, all branded as hers. Her followers, mostly bots, gushed about her unique vision. Marcus's sister, who worked as a paralegal, told us to send a cease and desist. It was the first time I felt a glimmer of hope. While preparing it, Claire uncovered another bombshell. Aydana had been messaging my bridesmaids, offering them money to appear in both weddings. Two admitted they considered it because of student loans. My own friends were being lured into her twisted performance. The madness peaked when the venue called again. Someone had tried to cancel my entire booking in the middle of the night. Security footage showed Aydana at 2:17 a.m. with a man and lock-picking tools. She was caught on camera trying to break in. Thankfully, the upgraded security system held. But the violation left me shaken to my core. The next morning, my mom called, screaming hysterically. Their credit cards had been maxed out. Turns out Aydana had used their accounts to book vendors, planners, and even custom invitations. Over $30,000 vanished. Hours later, my dad called quietly. He admitted he'd been keeping a secret file on Aydana for years. He had photos, forged documents, and even police reports that my mom forced him to ignore. His guilt weighed heavy in every word. We confronted Ryan again, who looked completely wrecked. He showed us fake texts where Aydana pretended to be me, begging him to share family heirlooms. He'd found notebooks where she practiced forging my signature. Whole pages filled with my name in her handwriting. Claire called me shaking the next day. Aydana had been at my seamstress's shop filming a video claiming she designed my gown. The seamstress was mortified, calling me immediately. Aydana had paraded around my dress as if it were hers, recording for influencer content. Ryan showed up again, exhausted and pale. He revealed that Aydana had been spoofing his number, sending cruel messages to his family in his name. He looked devastated, admitting he was scared of her. The police documented everything but still said there wasn't enough for an arrest. That didn't stop her from pushing further. She crashed my bakery appointment, pretending I had invited her. I snapped and screamed at her in public, unable to hold it in anymore. She burst into tears, painting me as the jealous, unstable sister. Vendors began second-guessing me because of her theatrics. My caterer and DJ called, confused by contradictory requests. Then at home, I found something chilling. Childhood photos where my face had been replaced with hers through crude Photoshop edits. Her Instagram had become a surreal world where she'd always been the golden sister. My life rewritten with her at the center. The final straw came when she announced her own wedding, 1 week before mine. Same vendors, same timeline, a carbon copy. Vendors began calling, confused about which event to prioritize. My stomach sank with every call. That night, Ryan finally broke down. He confessed that he and Aydana weren't even engaged. She had threatened self-harm if he didn't play along. He admitted he'd been enabling her out of fear, not love. His guilt poured out like a confession. As I scrolled through old photos that night, I noticed the pattern. Aydana had always been wearing my clothes, my jewelry, my bracelet of luck. It had never been about sharing. It had always been about erasing me. The week before my wedding, the madness reached a terrifying peak. My venue called again, telling me someone had tried to cancel the entire event. This time, they had crystal-clear security footage. It was Aydana, caught at 3 a.m. trying to sneak in with a man carrying a ring of keys. The venue banned her permanently on the spot. For the first time, I felt like someone other than me was taking her actions seriously. That same day, my dad uncovered new financial horrors. Aydana had secretly opened credit cards in both his and my name, maxing them out over the years. The total theft amounted to more than $50,000. It was enough evidence for police to finally move forward with charges. The arrest happened quietly while she was still living at my parents' house. I watched from down the street as officers led her out in handcuffs. She tried to play the victim, crying and begging, but when her eyes met mine, her mask slipped. The pure rage on her face chilled me. For the first time in years, I could breathe. Vendors rallied to support me, offering discounts and reassuring me they were on my side. My dad testified at a hearing about the stolen funds. My mom exploded, blaming me for ruining her daughter's life. Her denial was so fierce she even spray-painted "liar" on my car. I stood shaking until my seamstress pressed a note into my hand. "You earned this. Wear it with pride." Ryan reached out again, looking like a shell of himself. He admitted he was finally in therapy and apologized for enabling Aydana's lies. He offered to testify against her, saying he was as much a victim as I was. For the first time, I believed him. My dad and I had dinner alone, something we hadn't done in years. He broke down, apologizing for staying silent to keep peace at home. He told me he was in therapy too, trying to unlearn decades of ignoring the truth. Then he asked if I would still let him walk me down the aisle. Tears filled my eyes as I said yes. It was the first olive branch we'd shared in a long time. Days later, Aydana's lawyer called with a plea offer. She would plead guilty if I spoke at sentencing to downplay her actions. I said no without hesitation. That same week, I received a threatening handwritten letter from jail. It was 10 pages of ranting, ending with a promise to ruin my wedding even from behind bars. We turned it over to the prosecutor. The prosecutor revealed Aydana had been making recorded jail calls, asking friends to sabotage my wedding. That gave them grounds for a new harassment charge. 3 days before the wedding, my coordinator showed me the venue's new security measures. They even had a safe room ready if things went wrong. It wasn't the dream wedding I imagined, but at least it was safe. That night, Ryan called, shaken, saying someone offered him $5,000 to object during the ceremony. He recorded the call. The voice on the other end revealed it was my own mother behind the plot. The week before my wedding, the madness reached a terrifying peak. My venue called again, telling me someone had tried to cancel the entire event. This time, they had crystal-clear security footage. It was Aydana, caught at 3 trying to sneak in with a man carrying a ring of keys. The venue banned her permanently on the spot. For the first time, I felt like someone other than me was taking her actions seriously. That same day, my dad uncovered new financial horrors. Aydana had secretly opened credit cards in both his and my name, maxing them out over the years. The total theft amounted to more than $50,000. It was enough evidence for police to finally move forward with charges. The arrest happened quietly while she was still living at my parents' house. I watched from down the street as officers led her out in handcuffs. She tried to play the victim, crying and begging, but when her eyes met mine, her mask slipped. The pure rage on her face chilled me. For the first time in years, I could breathe. Vendors rallied to support me, offering discounts and reassuring me they were on my side. My dad testified at a hearing about the stolen funds. My mom exploded, blaming me for ruining her daughter's life. Her denial was so fierce she even spray-painted "liar" on my car. I stood shaking until my seamstress pressed a note into my hand. "You earned this. Wear it with pride." Ryan reached out again, looking like a shell of himself. He admitted he was finally in therapy and apologized for enabling Aydana's lies. He offered to testify against her, saying he was as much a victim as I was. For the first time, I believed him. My dad and I had dinner alone, something we hadn't done in years. He broke down, apologizing for staying silent to keep peace at home. He told me he was in therapy too, trying to unlearn decades of ignoring the truth. Then he asked if I would still let him walk me down the aisle. Tears filled my eyes as I said yes. It was the first olive branch we'd shared in a long time. Days later, Aydana's lawyer called with a plea offer. She would plead guilty if I spoke at sentencing to downplay her actions. I said no without hesitation. That same week, I received a threatening handwritten letter from jail. It was 10 pages of ranting, ending with a promise to ruin my wedding even from behind bars. We turned it over to the prosecutor. The prosecutor revealed Aydana had been making recorded jail calls, asking friends to sabotage my wedding. That gave them grounds for a new harassment charge. 3 days before the wedding, my coordinator showed me the venue's new security measures. They even had a safe room ready if things went wrong. It wasn't the dream wedding I imagined, but at least it was safe. That night, Ryan called, shaken, saying someone offered him $5,000 to object during the ceremony. He recorded the call. The voice on the other end revealed it was my own mother behind the plot. On the wedding day, chaos tried one last time to win. Guests received fake calls claiming the wedding was cancelled. Half of them showed up confused, while others almost missed it. Marcus and Claire scrambled to reassure everyone. We traced the calls back to a burner phone purchased with my mom's credit card. My dad showed up with a restraining order against her. While I dressed, I found another note sewn into my gown from my seamstress. This dress has been through hell, and so have you. Wear it with pride. Minutes before the ceremony, security stopped my mom and 3 women trying to film a fake documentary about Aydana's injustice. Police arrested her on the spot. Then came the twist I feared most. Marcus pulled me aside, saying Aydana had been released that morning due to a clerical error. No one knew where she was. Security doubled their watch, tension thick in the air. Moments before I walked down the aisle, someone spotted her in the parking lot. It turned out to be a mannequin dressed in her clothes with a note, "Wish I could be there, sis." I refused to let it ruin me. I linked arms with my dad and walked proudly down the aisle. The ceremony was beautiful, save for a phone alarm going off mid-vows. Instead of ruining it, I laughed, feeling lighter than I had in months. At the reception, joy filled the room again. We danced, ate, and celebrated without shadows hanging over us. During the toasts, Ryan took the mic. He apologized publicly, saying he'd been manipulated, and announced he was leaving town for grad school. The room applauded, finally seeing him as a victim too. My coordinator pulled me aside, showing me Aydana's Instagram posting live from jail. She somehow had a phone, mocking my wedding as a cheap copy. I looked for 10 seconds, then handed the phone back. Not today. Claire gave her speech about chosen family and resilience, never naming Aydana, but everyone knew. The applause shook the room. Then I danced with my dad to a childhood song, and he whispered, "I'm proud of you. I won't let anyone hurt you again." That moment healed more than I can explain. It felt like the start of a new chapter. The next morning, as Marcus and I boarded our honeymoon flight, I got the call. Aydana had finally taken a plea deal. 2 years in prison, 5 years probation, mandatory therapy, and no contact with me ever again. Her social media accounts and influencer deals vanished overnight. At the resort, I video called my dad. He looked lighter, saying he'd filed for divorce and was finally attending support groups. Claire texted updates that my mom was online playing the victim, but people weren't buying it anymore. For once, the truth was louder. When I got home, there was an email from Aydana's public defender. Attached was another letter from her. I deleted it unopened. My therapist told me closure meant refusing to continue the cycle. Therapy became my weekly ritual, teaching me boundaries I'd never known before. For the first time, I was free of the guilt I'd carried. My dad discovered more victims of Aydana's fraud. Police built a stronger case, calling her a pattern offender. Her arrest made headlines, but I stayed silent. I released only a small statement urging others to recognize toxic patterns and protect themselves. After the wedding, Marcus and I moved into a new apartment. My dad helped us, bringing only family photos without Aydana. Claire and I began hosting dinners again. Laughter filled the rooms instead of tension. Months later, we received a letter from the corrections department. Aydana had started restitution payments, $20 a month. I donated it straight to a fraud victims charity. It felt poetic. Ryan sent a card from Seattle, thanking me for freeing him. He said it would be his last contact. One afternoon, I donated my preserved wedding dress to a nonprofit for low-income brides. Turning something painful into something beautiful was the best closure I could imagine. On our first anniversary, Marcus and I had dinner with my dad. He showed us vacation photos, smiling in a way I hadn't seen in years. That night, I deleted the last photo of Aydana from my phone. Not with anger, but with acceptance. Sitting with Marcus, our cat curled between us, Claire's texts popping up with silly memes, and my dad's laughter echoing in my memory, I realized something. This was my family now. Not the one I was born into, but the one I built. And for the first time in years, I hadn't thought about Aydana in weeks.